Welcome to the Google Cloud Update for the week of October 24th, 2025. I'm your host, and we have a packed episode for you today, full of groundbreaking new features, critical security updates, and some major performance boosts you won't want to miss. Coming up on the show, we'll dive into an exciting early access feature in BigQuery that lets you literally have a conversation with your data. We'll also talk about a massive performance upgrade for serverless Spark with the general availability of the Lightning Engine in Dataproc. Then we'll look at some seriously powerful new hardware hitting Kubernetes engine. And finally, we have a crucial security segment covering several hardware vulnerabilities and a critical OpenSSH patch you need to know about. All right, let's jump right into the big news from the world of data and AI. First up, BigQuery is now offering early access to a feature called conversational analytics. This is a game changer. It aims to speed up data analysis by letting you get insights using natural language. Imagine just chatting with your BigQuery data, asking it questions, and getting answers without writing complex SQL. You can even create custom agents and access them outside of BigQuery. This is the kind of stuff that really democratizes data access. To get in on this, you'll need to fill out the early access request form linked in the release notes. Staying with BigQuery, the BigQuery ML team has been busy. They've just made the times frame univariate time series forecasting model generally available. This model, which comes from Google Research's open source work, is now built right in. You can use the AI.forecast function with a much larger context window to predict future values, and then use AI.evaluate to see how well your forecast did. This is a huge win for anyone doing financial modeling, supply chain forecasting, or any kind of time series analysis. And there's one more AI-flavored update from the data world, this time in Spanner. You can now use the Google SQL ML.predict function to convert your natural language text into an embedding and perform an approximate nearest neighbors, or ANN, vector search. This is incredibly powerful for building semantic search and recommendation engines directly on your operational data in Spanner. Now, let's talk about speed. Dataproc is announcing the general availability of the Lightning Engine for Google Cloud serverless for Apache Spark. This isn't just a minor tweak, it's a high-performance query accelerator that delivers up to 4.3 times faster performance for Spark workloads compared to open-source Spark. To get this boost, you need to submit your jobs in the premium tier. And if you want to squeeze out even more performance, you can enable a feature called native query execution by setting the flag spark.dataproc.lightningengine.runtime equals native. If you were using the old flag for this in preview, just be aware that it's being deprecated in future runtimes, so make sure to switch to the new one. Let's shift gears to compute and infrastructure, where some powerful new options have just landed. In Google Kubernetes Engine, the G4 VM family is now generally available. These machines are absolute beasts powered by NVIDIA's RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell Server Edition GPUs and the AMD EPYC Turin CPU platform. We're talking up to 384 vCPUs, nearly 1.5 terabytes of memory, and up to 400 gigabits per second of network performance. Google says the G4 VM offers up to 9 times the throughput of the previous G2 instances for workloads like AI development and graphics rendering. You can get them with 1, 2, 4, or 8 GPUs. If you want to use them in GKE standard, make sure you're on a recent 1.34 version or later. Over in the serverless world, Cloud Run has also been getting some love. First, GPU support for Cloud Run jobs is now generally available. So if you have batch jobs that need that extra parallel processing power, you can now use them in a fully managed serverless environment. Also, Direct VPC Egress now has GA support for private net, and it's in preview for VPC flow logs. This gives you much more control and visibility over how your Cloud Run services interact with your VPC network. And a small but very welcome update for all you network admins out there. When you list or describe subnets in your VPC, you can now see the IP address utilization. It'll show you the number of free and allocated IP addresses in a subnet. No more guesswork. Okay, it's time for our security segment. We have several important advisories to discuss this week, so listen closely. First, a high-severity flaw has been found in the RD seed instruction on AMD Zen 5 processors, also known as Turin. This instruction is used for generating cryptographic random numbers. Under certain load conditions, the 16-bit and 32-bit versions of RD seed can silently fail, which could compromise any application relying on them. The good news is that the 64-bit version is unaffected, and the 64-bit Linux kernel, which feeds the random numbers for dev-random and dev-urandom, uses this safe version. So, your standard system randomness is not impacted. However, if you have custom application code that calls the RD seed instruction directly, you must ensure it's using the 64-bit version. Next, and this one is critical, a major vulnerability was discovered in OpenSSH, tracked as CVE 20246387. This one is serious. It allows a remote, unauthenticated attacker to execute arbitrary code as root. You need to take action here. First, apply updates from your Linux distribution as soon as they become available. This also applies to container-optimized OS and TPUs, so check the bulletin for patched versions. If you can't update immediately, you should consider disabling the default Allow SSH firewall rule. If you must leave SSH on, there is a runtime mitigation you can apply. You need to edit your SSHD config file and set the login grace time to 0, then restart the SSHD service. This eliminates the race condition that the exploit relies on. Please review this bulletin carefully and patch your systems. Finally, there have been a series of other hardware vulnerabilities disclosed by Intel affecting various processor families, from Sapphire Rapids to Granite Rapids, and even older microarchitectures. We've also seen a vulnerability in the Trusted Platform Module, or TPM software, affecting shielded versions VMs. For all of these, the key takeaway is that no customer action is required. Google has already applied fixes and mitigations across the server fleet to protect all customers. While it's always good to be aware, you can rest easy knowing that the infrastructure has been proactively secured. Now for some quick hits and other notable updates from across Google Cloud. For our database folks, Spanner has made its Schema Object Drop Protection feature generally available. This helps prevent you from accidentally deleting tables, indexes, or columns. It's a simple feature that could save you from a very bad day. In Colab Enterprise, you can now use visualization cells, which are in preview. These let you generate interactive and editable charts right from within your notebook without writing a bunch of plotting code. Over on text-to-speech, the Chirp 3 Instant Custom Voice feature now supports voice cloning key generation in the EU and US regions. And in Security Command Center, container image vulnerability findings are now generally available, giving you better insight into the security posture of your containerized applications. And that's a wrap for this week's Google Cloud Update. From conversational analytics and BigQuery to the blazing fast Lightning Engine in Dataproc and critical security patches, it's been a busy week. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for another dose of Google Cloud news.